Hello, my name is Tony. The Ultimate Warrior is a low-budget science fiction film released in 1975. It cost $1 million to make and took around $9 million at the box office. Damnation Alley, a science fiction movie released 2 years later in 1977, cost $8 million to make and took around $4 million at the box office. Despite no location work and being completely filmed on Warner Brothers and MGM backlots, as well as looking like it was made for TV by Quinn Martin Productions, The Ultimate Warrior is a better movie than Damnation Alley. Damnation Alley was filmed on location in Nevada, Montana, and the Mojave Desert in California, and looks like it was made for TV by some tin pot cable company skirting the fast-expanding edges of bankruptcy. Funny how things turn out. Director Robert Clouse, he who gave us the finest mainstream martial arts beat-em-up of all time, Enter the Dragon, knew how to make the most of very little. He wrote the original screenplay for The Ultimate Warrior, and exactly how he or anyone else managed to hook in two major players like Yul Brynner and Max von Sydow to take part is a complete mystery, so I'll take a guess. Brynner's earlier foray into the world of futuristic science fiction had given him a memorable and iconic 70s role in Michael Crichton's seminal Westworld. As the robot gunslinger, the ultimate flip side of his Magnificent Seven persona, he made a startling and memorable impact. Maybe he thought this would give him another bite of that cherry. Von Sydow probably had a few weeks with nothing much to do and wanted to boost his pocket money, so I've just sort of rationalised it to myself in that way. These days, barely anyone seems to remember it, and it's slipped into relative obscurity. But it's always stuck in my mind because down the years, I've caught elements of it replicated or cropping up in any number of post-apocalyptic genre outings. Mad Max, Escape from New York, Cyborg, The Book of Eli, Children of Men, The Walking Dead. Always something there to remind me. What a great title for a song. Well, maybe one day. It's the future, or for us here and now, it isn't. It's an alternative past, because it's set in 2012. Still in 1975, 2012 seemed a long way off, because it was, relatively speaking. Then I used to wonder if I'd ever live to see the year 2000 with its flying cars and android slaves and stuff. I did live, if you can call it living, but the other things didn't quite materialise. Anyway, it's 2012, and plague has ravaged the earth, killing all the crops. The fuel ran out, and so did the bullets, apparently, because no one has a gun in this movie. In fact, they have few projectile firing weapons at all. There's a crossbow early on, but that's about it, which I always found odd. I mean, seriously. Anyway, what they have is knives, makeshift cudgels and clubs and fists and feet and big rocks to drop on people's faces. New York City is a decimated crap hole of rubble and decaying tenements. Imagine that if you can. The survivors are split into colonies or gangs. Then there's the street people, the lowest common denominator in the pecking order, who are random cannibalistic wackos just waiting on that all-you-can-eat human buffet to come along. In a barricaded enclave, the Baron, Max von Sydow, presides over a small community. They have a well providing the people with fresh running water and a rooftop garden which flourishes due to the efforts of Cal Richard Kelton, a folksy sort of scientist who has developed plague-resistant seeds. They have tomatoes and string beans and lots of other healthy shit you'd only eat as a last resort to stave off imminent starvation. McDonald's and Nando's have not endured this apocalypse. God, it must be hell. Pray it never happens, people. Then there's Carrot, William Smith, the leader of a gang who hang out at the local prison. Carrot has a name that strikes fear into the hearts of market gardeners everywhere. A redhead psycho with designs on the Baron's tomato crop. The evil fiend. He plans to take over the Baron's community and commandeer all the veg. It's a veritable war, or a vegetable war. It could end in absolute carnage. A lone man appears outside the old library. He stands there for 2 whole days, stripped to the waist and moving like a statue with his eyes shut. He is Carson, Yul Brynner, the ultimate warrior of the title, a mercenary for hire. The Baron makes him a deal. He can have extra portions of food, clean bed and lodgings, in a nice room with no rats, all the cigars he wants, but if he fancies a fuck, he'll have to make his own arrangements. No can do with the procurement of willing flesh. In return, he will protect the community, and so it is, a deal is struck, swung by the offer of free cigars. Despite Carson's prowess as a fighter and killer of anything that moves, the Baron realizes it's only a matter of time before Carrot and his gang overrun the compound. Got the numbers, see? Carson tells the Baron he is working his way to an island off the coast of North Carolina where he has some family. The Baron makes a deal with him to escort his pregnant daughter Melinda, Joanna Miles, and Cal, along with the plague-resistant seeds, out of the city via the underground subway to the safety of the island. As an added encumbrance, the baby will probably have to be delivered along the way. But if it comes to it, a choice between saving Melinda and the baby or the seeds, the Baron tells Carson, save the seeds. Such paternalism makes the heart swell, don't it? To lighten the load, Carrot's men launch a commando raid on the tomato plants and throw Cal off the roof in the process. Cal was the father of Melinda's child, and his death makes her determined not to leave. The Baron drugs her and Carson carries her down to the subway. With Carrot and his men in hot pursuit, stalking them all the way, and a baby about to be born, how will they make it? Will they make it? Should they make it? We'll see. But what you want to know, pilgrims, is if The Ultimate Warrior is worthy of your time and attention. Well, if you enjoy literate scripting impregnated with dazzling dialogue, smart verbal interplay, with clever plot twists and turns and such, you won't find it here. There is no grandiose spectacle, no pyrotechnics or special effects to speak of, and the fight sequences are, to be honest, a little flat and mundane, enlivened by a couple of very nasty moments and brutal exceptions. Enter the Dragon, this is not. So what do we got? Two stars who are both impressive and imposing in their own distinct ways. Brynner and von Sydow lend an air of quality and gravitas the film doesn't otherwise encompass. Brynner looks fit and lethal, very sprightly and agile in the fight scenes, in a role that would have been a good fit for Charlie Bronson at the time. His Carson is not just some nomadic thug, but a more thoughtful and strategic sort of guy. He knows the score and realises that the Baron's days and that of his community are numbered. Von Sydow adopts a faintly dusty and doddery air, but beneath his shambling surface there is steel and purpose. In his own way, he's just as ruthless as the next post-apocalyptic overlord, and he too knows that time is running out. Whilst everyone around them overacts, these two focal points are calm and composed, delivering performances which steer clear of the manic histrionics, bug-eyed shouting, and overwrought emoting and raging. They're the quiet and composed spots, eyes in the storm. What I like most about The Ultimate Warrior is the way that it subverts expectations. When Carson joins the community, usually in such films, his type of character is a heroic catalyst for things getting better. He isn't, and they don't. When two young parents and their baby go missing, straying outside the barricades to try and find powdered milk in an abandoned bakery, Carson is dispatched to bring them back. He finds both parents and the baby dead. He kills many of Carrot's minions, but returns to the compound empty-handed with nothing but bad news, which is a bit of a downer. When a man is accused of stealing tomatoes, one of his neighbours, the real thief, has planted, excuse the pun, a tomato in his crib, the Baron decrees swift justice. There's no, well, we'll investigate further and get to the bottom of this, don't you worry, innocent till proven guilty, bleeding heart justice signalling here. Nope, the man is tied up, a sack placed over his head, and he's thrown outside to be ravaged and butchered by the street people. All you can eat, guys. See what I mean about the Baron being ruthless? After Carson and Melinda head off into the subway tunnels, it's villagers with pitchforks time. The angry mob storms the Baron's domicile. Usually in such circumstances, the man of quiet strength, with peerless leadership qualities, eloquent, reasonable, would placate the revolting peasants with reassuring words and common sense. Not here though. They batter the Baron to death, finishing him off with a typewriter smashed down onto his clock. When I was a teenager, I had a second-hand typewriter just like that one. Barlock was the manufacturer of mine. It weighed a fucking ton. Moving it from one place to another was enough to induce a triple hernia. Hitting a rhino on the nut with it would cause a subdural hematoma that would kill it stone dead. No wonder the Baron ain't getting up again. Down in the subway, cue soft cell cover of Jack Hammer's song. Carson and Melinda are pursued by Carrot and his crew of degenerate morons. The Ultimate Warrior turns out to be the ultimate midwife and delivers the baby in a train carriage. He eventually kills all the enemy except for Carrot. Their final confrontation ends with Carrot's weapon, a steel ball on the end of a steel chain, wrapped around Carson's wrist, whilst Carrot holds onto the other end, dangling into a rather terminal-looking pit. Carrot won't let go and Carson can't free himself. Reaching for a nearby axe, it's a bit of a visceral shock when Carson chops off his own lower arm, sending Carrot to his death. He then plunges the bleeding stump into a burning torch to cauterize the wound. Groovy. These are all nice touches designed to wrong-foot the audience, taking expected genre tropes and twisting them into unforeseen alternatives. Things don't happen the way common movie law suggests that they should or traditionally do, so it's got that going for it. And it closely follows a Western template in essence. Lone stranger, troubled town, bad guys on the loose, you know. Even though it looks like it's a made-for-TV article, production values resembling a US 70s sci-fi series like Planet of the Apes, the gruesome and violent violent content is incompatible with that medium. The eerie shots of deserted and abandoned buildings and empty freeways with the doomy underground bits set the tone quite effectively, and the whole thing moves along briskly enough so that it's never boring or gets moribund. Some say that the ending is ambiguous, but unless I'm seeing a different ending, I don't get it. Carson and Melinda and the baby walk onto a stretch of coastline. Out to sea in the distance is the outline of an island. So they're alive, the kid's alive, they got the seeds, there's the island. Where's the fucking ambiguity? Unless you need more, like seeing them find a boat, row across, disembark, meet up with Carson's family, hugs all round, sit around the campfire, toast marshmallows, sing Kumbaya. What the fuck else you want? I don't know. Some people. Despite its relative obscurity, The Ultimate Warrior is more influential than it's been given credit for. I kept an eye out for it for ages because I'd seen it reviewed on Film Night or some other stuffy critic show. The clip they showed was of a street person slamming a big rock down on someone's head and Yul Brynner strutting his stuff with a blade. The host critic, who might have been Derek Malcolm or Philip Jenkinson, panned the film, really trashed it. From that moment on, it made my watch list. Didn't come round for a while, and when it did, it was on a double bill with the gloomy Dick Bumgard espionage thriller Permission to Kill. The two didn't really go together thematically, but never mind, I enjoyed both movies. But as you can no doubt guess, my preference was for The Ultimate Warrior, more my sort of thing at the time. It's a cheap, small-scale, unpretentious, moderately diverting and generally amusing post-apocalyptic sci-fi opus, and it's certainly not the worst the genre has to offer. If you don't believe me, check out Damnation Alley. That'll put you straight. Oh, fuck yes. Thank you as always for taking the time to watch. I never cease to be amazed when anyone does. If you would be so kind as to hit like, didn't like, leave a comment or subscribe, I will be as equally amazed and take this opportunity to thank you in advance. Now, for my next miracle, I shall... but that would be telling, wouldn't it? Catch you later, pilgrims.